Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're gonna learn about list and tuples. We'll also do some practice as well. So let's get going. All right. So what's the definition of a list? List is a sequential collection of data where each value is identified by an index. So basically, there's an assigned index for each value, and it's a sequence. It's a sequence in Python. Okay. So what's the real world outcome? We have seen many places where a list in action. Like if you take your grocery list and you have a list of things that you want to buy from the shop, right? It could be vegetables, groceries, um, other stuff, school supplies, right? So that's a list of things that you want to buy. So people in a queue, a line can be taken as a list as well. Student in a classroom, again, a list of students, right? So there are many places where we use the concept of list. And that's why we have it in Python too, all right? So, so it's one of the three basic sequences in Python: lists, tuples, and ranges. Text also sequence type, but we say it's text sequence. Okay, text sequences, strings. Okay. All right. So inside the content of the element basically are called elements. Okay. So basically the entities, items inside the list are called elements. Python lists are heterogeneous. So that means inside the elements, there can be variety of types. So there's no restriction as to like in Java or C++ or C that the items inside should be one type. There could be many types. And that's one of the uh, um, um, significant difference when you compare Python list and arrays in Java and in C++. Okay. And it's really versatile in that sense. All right. So inside a list, there could be another list as well. So we call it sublist, and the process is called nesting. All right. So let's see how we can create a list in Python. All right. So first, you can create an empty list by simply using two square bracket. Okay. So Python uses two square brackets to indicate a list. Okay, you can simply enclose the things that you want to make into a list inside that two square bracket. Okay, all right. So you can pass an iterable object into list class method. So we call it list constructor or list type constructor. Okay, so it's a built-in function in Python. You simply pass an iterable object, right? Range is an iterable object. A text sequence like a string, also an iterable object. Okay, you can pass it to a list and then create a list. Okay, so guys, in this sign, I basically mean returns. Okay, so this excuse me, right arrow key, arrow means basically return. So basically this, when you pass range 4 into list, we get this as a list. And if we pass a string, we get a list of characters. Okay, so let's check this out. Okay, so I already pre-formatted our file over here. Okay, so I'm gonna now create an empty list. Okay, so I did it so that I can save time. Okay, and here I'm going to print a list, that is this one. Okay, and here I'm going to pass this range into my list. Same thing that we have in the slide. We are basically verifying them. Okay. So, all right. So let's check this out. So I'm going to run this code. All right. So, all right. Slide number 3. So I got the empty list and I created this list and range as a list, and I passed the string and I got character list. All right. So let's go back. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Okay. List can be nested. Okay. So that means you can have a sub list inside another list, and then there's no limit to that. Okay. Nesting. All right. So for example, given this is my list, and you can see that there's a inner list. We call it a sub list. Okay. All right. And then sometimes we call the outer list a two-dimensional list because it has another list inside. Okay. All right. So this is called a sublist. It's just another list as an element. Okay. There's no limit to nesting. Okay. So let's check this out over here. Okay. So I have a list and I'm going to print it out. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to check on that list. Okay. So this is the 0th element, element number 1, element number 2. Okay. So I'm printing it out. Okay. So quickly run it. Okay. So we have slide number 4. I printed out that list and then the sub list inside. Okay. All right. So let's go back. All right. So there are a bunch of list operations available. So one of the fundamental operation is get the length of the list. Okay. So get a count of items inside. Okay. So whenever there is a iterable or container and a sequence, we can use the len built-in method to get the length. Okay. So you can use it over here as well. Okay. So it returns a number of elements in the list. Okay. So we simply pass our list into len function and returns 5 over here. Okay. So element 1, 2, this whole sublist is element 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right. It doesn't go inside sublist. Okay. All right. Sublist are taken as a single entity. Okay. All right. So len also works with any other sequence, and here's an example use of using with strings. All right. So let's check this one out as well. Okay. So slide number 5, it's the length. Okay. So I'm going to copy this down and then run it. Okay. All right. Slide number 5. Okay. So it's 5. Okay. All right. So let's go back. Okay. All right. So the next question is, okay, how do we access content inside? Okay. So there has to have a mechanism for that. Okay. So we can use indexing. Okay. So left to right, it start from 0. Okay. Right to left, indexing start from -1. Okay. So this is another difference when you compare it with C++ or Java. Okay. So in that sense, Python lists are really versatile. So you can access the list from left to right the usual way, or from end to the start, from right to left. Okay. All right. So I have this list. Okay. And I column it out so that I can show you guys how this indexing works. So this is positive indexing, start from 0, which is this element Python, and 1, 2.5, 2, and third. 3 is the second element. Okay. So index 2. So if I use the indexing operator, right? So its indexing operator is this two square bracket, and I use the list name and the indexing operator and put the index that I want to access. And in this case, index positive index 1 is 2.5. So it returns 2.5. In here, it's negative indexing, start from -1, and it start from the right end, and we go towards left. So py -1 is, it returns 3. The value is 3. Okay. All right. So if we have a sublist, all right, so you can go inside that sublist as well. So for example, given this list, so element 1 is a sublist. All right. So this is li1 is this list, and I'm accessing the first element of that sublist, which is 3. So I return 3. All right. So let's check this out as well. Okay. So over here, so I'm going to print, so py1, so element 1, the index 1, and here I'm going to access, so it's just verifying. Okay. So this one, and then I am printing this one. Okay. All right. So quickly run it. Okay. Slide number 6. Okay. So I got, okay, so element 1 is 2.5, and that's what we have. Okay. And then this is the list. 0th element is Python, and then element 1 is 2.5. And a negative element, a -1 element is this one, 3. And in this list, okay, so element 1 is this, all right, that is that. And then the 0th element of that is 3. Okay, so I got that one. Okay, all right, so let's go back. Okay, so how do we check whether an item in a list or not? So we already learned that operation, in and not in operation, right? So we call it membership check. Okay, so we can use in and not in operators to check whether an element inside the list or not. Okay, it's really common operation. Okay, so both operators return Boolean values. So if we take this list, and if I am checking over here with the phi is in li, it returns false, because see, there's no element 5 inside this list, right? First one is 2, second one is this whole sublist, and third one is 6. There's no 5. So notice, membership operation doesn't go, it doesn't check recursively. Okay, it's only check the outermost list. All right. So next one, not in. So if you take the previous list, in returns false, so that means not in returns true, because it's checking whether it's not in there. Yeah, it's not in there. All right. So let's check on this now. So slide number 7. All right. Okay. So I'm going to check this. I like this way of doing it, so it save time. Okay. All right. So let's quickly run it. All right, slide number 7. All right, I got false. Okay, so this is the list. Phi is not in there. So if it's not in there, not in operator should return true. Okay. All right, so let's go back. All right, so So list is a compound data structure. So it has basically items inside. So there has to be a mechanism to, let's say, access one after the other, right? So like for example, counting, right? So how do we do that? How can we iterate elements inside the list? Okay, we already know how the mechanism of iteration in Python, which is for loop or while loop. So we can use a for loop. All right. So there are two ways of iterating. One is element by element iteration. Okay. So basically, uh, we 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 use a for loop, and then we just go one after element by element, right? So element after element, and we can do whatever we want to do with the list inside the for loop. Okay. All right. So next one. So here's an example. Okay. So for words in sorted Python. So this sorted is a built-in function in Python. It actually returns a list. So this whole thing is a list, and it take an iterable object, okay, like a sequence or container, and then create a list out of it, like sorted list out of it. Okay, so the list will be sorted with the content of this, right? So and then so this whole thing is a list. So I'm printing those words. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few one trick over here. So imagine like in an interview, you need to know um, uh, what you need to investigate. Okay, so you don't know what function to use, and you need to know you need to check it out. So if you try to browse, and then there's a good chance that interviewer get to know that, and then he might the interviewer, he or she might suspect that you are browsing for a solution in the internet. So what you can do is you can simply take your interpreter, and I'm going to show you how you can access help in Python. Okay, so first what you have to do is use the dir function like this. It's a built-in function. It lists, it gives you this first. Okay, so right now it's basically printing out the the internal variables in the current frame of the interpreter. Okay, so you take this variable, copy it. Okay, Control Shift C, okay, or Command Shift C, and then you pass it to help. Okay, all right. So all right. So sorry, you pass it to dir again. Okay, so all right. Now it lists. So it returns a list. Not it returns a list. Let me just a little bit. Okay, so it returns a list, and if you check over here, okay, so you will see this, let's say, sorted method, right? All right, so copy that as well. Okay, so now this allows you to see this list of internals available, built-in uh, method functions available, and we usually don't look for these kind of variables. They are called internals. Okay, so we look for something like these, like dir, all like ord, everything is there. So what you need to do is now once you pick that function, okay, so all right, you can now pass it to help function. Okay, all right, here you go. And it says, okay, it returns a new list containing all items from the iterable in ascending order. So it shows you what. So you don't need to browse, right? You can use your interpreter to list out the help, right? And then once you're done, you can press Q and it goes back. Let's say you want to get help on list, right? You simply pass an empty list and it's list you out all the internals and then the list methods that you available to you. Like for example, count, right? It returns number of occurrences of this value inside that list. Okay, so it's really nice way to get help without going into search. Okay, which could be troubling. Okay, all right. So let's just go back to our lesson. Okay, all right. So now let's check this out. Slide number 8. Okay. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this code like this. Okay. So, all right. So let me just show you what this prints, you guys. Okay. So it's good to, all right. All right. So I pass a string. So it returns a sorted list of um, characters. Okay. So I'm expecting that to be printed. Okay. So let's run it. Okay. So slide number, so let's set this one down. All right. Slide number 8. Okay. So slide number 8. So I'm printing in a single line. Okay. Right. So I got this sorted list of characters inside. Okay. All right. So let's go back. All right. So the second way of iteration is index by index. Okay. So indexes are numbers. So for this, we need to use a range. And then that's one of the common utility of using ranges. Like we can use it with a for loop to, access another sequence like a list index by index. Okay. So for indexes in range, and if you want to access entire list, then it has to be uh, length. Okay. Length of that list, and inside we do something in there. Okay. All right. So here's an example. I have this list, and for indexes in range in this list, and I'm basically printing the second power of that list. Okay, each element. Okay, let's check this out to side number 9. Okay, so I already have the code over here, so let's quickly run. Okay, all right, slide number 9. Okay, I printed the the power of 2 of each element. So 1 to the power 2 is 1, 2 to the 2 4, 3 to the 2 9, 4 to the 2 16. Okay, all right, so let's go back. Okay, so all right, so we can also use a while loop. Okay, all right, so for that we need a helper variable that we need to create that boolean expression. Like in this case is the count. Okay, so we're going to use that count in here. So this is just the syntax. So there's a boolean expression, and then we do something, and there's a like a variable for updating. Okay, so usually that variable, an expression with that variable goes in here to check. Okay, so here's an example. Right, I have this list. So basically I am going to print the count of each. um, yeah, so I basically print the in the index. So since while loop doesn't have built-in index thing, so we have to basically create it ourselves. So that's why we have this count variable, and then I'm simply going to use the same to check whether it's we are reaching to the end of the list. Okay, so this is the condition, and then I'm printing those. Okay, so let's check this out. Slide number 10. So run it. All right. So right here, this is my list, and I basically printed the elements, right? So this elements of this list. That's all. All right. All right. So let's continue. Okay. So now let's solve this problem. Okay. So given any list, write a Python program to return the sum of all the numbers in the list. Right. So we know that, right? List can have many things, including numbers. So we have a list of like that, list like that. So we need to get the sum of all the numbers inside. Okay. So here's an example. So I have this list. It has both floating point numbers, integers, and then strings, and I need to return 6.5. Okay. All right. So let's quickly do the understand of this. Okay. So I already copied down the problem over here, side 11. Okay. All right. So let's quickly write the input. Okay. All right. So we have any list. Okay. All right. And what the expected output? Okay. All right. Sum of numbers, right? Inside. Okay. So now what else can we do over here? Right. So let me take the same as example, right? So this is the so given example, right? So return basically 1 plus 2 plus 3.5. That's it. Those are the whole numbers. Okay. So there has to be has to have a mechanism as to which how like to filter out non-numbers, right? So other types are types other than numbers. So what can we do over here? Okay. So again, now this is sort of we need to check the type of the object inside. Okay. So and then leave the non-numeric types. That's all what we have to do. Okay. So we can write it down over here. Okay. So sorry, this should be example, right? Leave non-numeric types. Okay. So how do we do that? All right. So basically check the type. That's all. So check the type. So how do we check the type in Python? Right. So one way of doing is you can use the type method. Okay. So know that there's a type built-in method. Okay. And you can check the type of any object with that, and then create a if condition somehow to check for that. There's another method. Okay. So let me show you help type. I think this should work. Let's see. Um, yeah. So this is type object. Yeah, it's return the type. The other one we can use it. Let me go the top over here. Okay. See this is instance. So usually in standard Python, if a method start with is, basically it returns either true or false, right? So basically, so is means it's checking something for something, and then it returns a Boolean value, either true or false. Okay, and then I encourage you guys to follow the same method as well whenever you write a Boolean returning function. Okay, all right. So let's get the help of this help. So I'm gonna copy this, Control Shift C, Control Shift V. All right, it says okay. Um, let's say okay, it's instance. Okay, so return whether an object is an instance of a class or of a subclass thereof. Okay, so basically class means the type. Okay, so you can check these variables is this type or not. Okay, so basically so that's what we have to do over here, right? So let's use that. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize this. Okay, so let's write our plan. So we can basically use is instance. Okay, all right. So let's write our plan. Match is string iteration. This is an accumulation problem because we're going to sum out. Okay. All right. So what's the number one step? Input, right? A list. Okay. And number two, okay. So we are summing up. Okay. So we need to initialize the sum. Okay. So init. Okay. And now we're going to iterate our um, list, right? So four, so number step, three step. So four, right? So we can item by item iterate. Okay. So for elements or items in a list. Okay. And then now we are going inside the for loop. So 3.1. Okay. So now check for a number, right? So check item for a number. Okay. So if I'll write it like that. If items is a number, now right, we're going to increment the count. Okay, so it's 3.1.1. So we are now inside if clause. Right, so increment. So okay, so at the end, if you are writing a function, I usually like to write solve all my problem as a function, but we are not sort of going over that yet. So if it is a function, then you can write, okay, return sum. All right. So let's make this into code now. Okay. So, right. So I can get an input. That's fine. Okay. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to basically in the main program, I'm going to use this is my list. Okay. I'm not going to use input method. Okay. And sum equals 0. Okay. That's initialization. Next step 4. Okay. Items in a list. All right. So now we need to check. All right. So if right is instant. All right. So it's already giving me the prompt PyCharm. All right. So is instant. So the object that we pass is the item. Okay. So what do we check for now? We check for one type of number is int. Okay. Well, we need to check for floating point as well. So O, right? All right. And this should be float. Right. If this is the case, well, now we know it's a number, right? So we can, right, sum plus equals, oops, plus equals items. Okay. And that's it. Um, there's no function. I can simply, well, I can do it down here. I'm going to do it down here so because I have this one. All right. So after all of this outside the for loop, I can print. Well, let me take this and then print it there. Okay. Right. Right here. Sum. Okay. All right. So let me quickly run it. All right. I'm expecting 6.5, I think. All right. All right. So let's see. Which slide? Which slide? Come on. Oh, it's over here. Yeah, 6.5. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Okay. So we learned that, okay, one way of creating list is list comprehension. Okay. So list comprehension is a big deal, guys. Okay. Because if you are going to face a software engineer intern interview in Python, expect a one. So I have taken Python interviews, and I faced this situation basically, and then there was occasion that I struggled myself as well. So they asked, what is a list comprehension? You should be able to say this like concise ways to create lists. That's all. Okay, and then you should be able to use list comprehension because it's one of the Pythonic feature in Python, and other language doesn't have this yet. Okay, so it's optimized. So you will see that we're gonna use for loops inside list comprehension, but it faster. More often, not always, but there's a good chance that code runs faster in a list comprehension. So, and it always about creating a list. So it's gonna create a new list. Okay. So if your problem is about creating a new list, then there's a good chance that list comprehension applies. Okay. All right. So let's check it out. So here's the syntax. Okay. And you can see that this for loop is in there, right? So also note that it's start with square bracket, end with square bracket. So that is to indicate we are creating a new list. Okay. All right. So let's identify these components. Okay. So expression, it describes how we are going to form each element of this new list, right? So we know that expression evaluates to a value, and that evaluated value goes into the list. Okay. So always in a programming language, expression evaluates to a value, and then that value goes into the list. Okay. So and that's that. So expression. So for loop simply iterate through the sequence. So the sequence here, it it I think should have been sequence or container as well. Any iterable object. This should be any iterable object. Okay. Right. So sequence is the most common iterable object. So that's why I put sequence there. Okay. So optional if close. If you have a condition, then basically you can filter out element from this sequence based on this condition into create this expression. Okay, so it's optional. Okay, all right, so let's practice with list comprehension. Okay, so here's the problem: solve the problem in slide number 11 in a single line of code. Okay, so isn't that a vague problem? Okay, solve the problem in slide number 11 in a single line of code. Okay, so let's go back and notice our comprehensions are single lines of code. Okay, sometimes interviewers don't say the word comprehension. They say, so once you solve the problem with the for loop and then let's say 4 5 lines of code, the interviewer may ask, can you do it in a single line? All right, so then you should know, okay, this should be a comprehension. Okay, so more often than not, it will be a comprehension. Okay, so how do we do that? So problem 11 is basically, um, sorry, problem in slide 11 is this. Okay, so we have this problem. So now we need to convert this to a list comprehension. So in list comprehension also it's a iteration problem. Okay. So you can use the same understand process, compare process, solving your list comprehension. Okay. So let me go to slide number 13. So this is I think this I put the wrong problem. So I'm gonna delete that. Okay. So it's the same problem. It's on the top under slide number 11. So okay. So let me write it. So I'm directly going to use the same plan that we had. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically convert this code into a uh, comprehension. Okay. So let me put it over here. We don't need that actually. Okay. So I have the for loop code. Okay. So the general regular iterative solution. Okay. So print. So I'm going to print this new list. So I'm creating a list comprehension. Start by putting the square bracket. This is how I usually do it. I first take the for. So if you have the for loop code, and then basically it's a matter of copy pasting almost. Okay. So I took that, and then basically I need the filter, right? So this is the filter, right? So that's the if part. Okay. All right. So let me go full screen. All right. Now I need to basically get the sum, right? So this were a little bit complicated. Okay. Now list comprehension creates new list, right? So, but the problem was, no, I don't want a list. I just want the sum of all the numerics. So we can still do that, right? So first we need to do is basically, okay, extract all the numbers inside. Okay. So I get that number. In this case, my expression is just the variable name, right? I verify there are to be numbers in here, right? So that's my variable name. Okay. So print it. Okay. And that is the list. All right. So I have a built-in method called sum that enabled to sum up the sum of numbers inside that whatever the in this case it's a list, whatever the sequence iterable. So we can also get it quickly over here as well. Okay. So help sum, right? Says return the sum of the start value. So you can there are defaults here. Um, um, iterable of numbers. Okay. All right. So that's it. Okay. So let's run it again. Okay. All right, slide number 13. Now there's a mistake there. Float. All right. So the reason is I made a mistake over here. So let me change this name. Sum2, and see sum is a built-in method, so there's a clash now. So I'm going to change it over here. So sum2, all right, sum2. That's a good eye opener. Okay, so yeah, this should work now. There you go. All right, so let's slide number 14. Did I print it? Let's see, slide number 13. Yeah, all right, 6.5. Okay, so we did it in a list comprehension. Okay, so let's first got the numbers into a list using list comprehension, and then sum it up. Okay, and always if you have a method available from standard Python, and my recommendation is go for it. Okay, if the interviewer don't like it, he may direct you. Okay, now could you do it without using, he or she may ask that. Okay, so so if it is available to you, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to our slide. And I set this one. Okay. All right. Okay, so over here. All right, so solve this one. All right, so lists are mutable. Okay, so mutability means they are prone to change. Okay, so basically we can use item assignment and the ID function to prove it. Okay, so if the object is immutable, we basically can't change it. Okay, so we say it's immutable. But if we can change the object once created, and then basically we call it mutable. Okay, so note that you can always reassign a variable to something else. That is not considered a mutation. Okay, so we call it a reassignment. Okay, so this one, so this is a mutability test. Okay, and we have a list, and I first print the identity of the list, ID value, and then I'm reassigning the index of the index 1 to be 5. Okay, so and I'm accessing the index, and then I'm reassigning the value from 2 to 5 now, and then I'm reprinting the ID value, and then you will see that IDs will be same. But if I do this, okay, list 2 is this, and now list 2 is 1, 2, 3. This is not a mutability test. I'm simply reassigning this value to this same name. So now the ID is going to be will not be same. Okay, so let's check on that. Slide number 14. So real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this code. Oops. All right, so for that I need to do this. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take this code. It's easy to copy paste. All right, slide number 14. Yep. Okay. So okay. So sprint this on slide number 14. Okay. See that the ID of before and ID after the same, but list is now changed. Okay, so we can actually print the list over here as well. So let me print it. List one. Oops. List one. Okay, so I'm gonna print it over here too, run it again. Okay, slide number 14. So this is this, and now the same list is now changed. I changed the value 5, same ID. Okay, so same object. All right, so let's check the other one, the other test. It's this is not a mutability test. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here. Okay, oops. Ugh. Should be all right. Okay, so let's print the list 2 as well along with it. Okay. Oh, come on. All right, so list 2. Okay. And all right, so run it. Okay. So slide number 14. Now the list, see that IDs are different. Okay. So list got changed, but it's not a change. It's just a reassignment. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. Okay, oops. Okay, so go here. All right, so we checked for that. Okay. All right, so let's learn about tuples. Okay, so tuple is actually a list. It's a list that is immutable. That's all. Okay, so like a list, it's a sequence of items of any type. Okay, but unlike list, tuples are immutable. Okay, okay, tuples are immutable. So how do we create a tuple? We can simply create it like this. Okay, so right, so it's a comma separated things, sub items that goes into the tuple, and we assign it to the tuple's name, and it creates this tuple. So tuples, we use the general normal brackets to create. So we can also do this as well. Okay, and if you want to create a tuple with a single item, we cannot use it like this. Okay, we have to use it like this, and then put the single item and put the one comma after that. Okay, so um, it's really important to understand that tuple can have items inside that are mutable. Okay, so that means basically immutability of the tuple is not exclusive. Okay, so so it's basically only the outer tuple we say immutable. The element inside can be mutable. So like for example, in this example, right? So I have this tuple. Its last element is a list, which is a mutable item. So basically, I can set this. I can change this to this tuple by accessing element like this and then making it uh, it's changing it using index accessing the indexes. Okay, so let's check on this. Okay, so slide number 15. Okay, all right, so I have this tuple. Okay, and then I create this tuple. So let me put this in, and then this one. Oops. All right, and then tuple 3. Okay, so just checking for a tuple. Okay, so this is, you see that this will not tuple. This will not be a tuple. And if we take this also, that also not a tuple. Okay, and we are just trying to verify. So if we try this again, this will be a tuple. So I'm printing the type simply. Okay, so um, yeah, so basically I'm printing the tuple over here, and then earlier I'm printing the type. Okay, so and then let's check this first. Okay, so slide number 15. Okay, so I have the tuples. Okay, and I change this to 3. So TP3 is 3, and your full screen. Okay, and the type. Okay, type 3. I should have checked the. Okay, this should be type. Sorry, so this should be this, and this is this. Okay, right here also this should be type. Sorry about that. Okay, so this should be type, and here also let me rerun. All right, so slide number. Okay, so see that it's an integer, both integers. It's a integer with brackets, surrounded by brackets, and this one right here. it's a tuple. Okay, right, this one. Okay, and then we printed this one. Okay, so the next what we have to do is basically I have this tuple. Now I'm going to access this element. Okay, so it's simply we'll get this. Now I'm going to change it. Okay, so basically now I'm printing T1 again. Okay, and we'll see that it'll it'll change. Okay, so see that earlier we had this, now we have this, right? So we change this tuple, right? So that's why. So if we try to change it like this, let me try this one too, right? T1 3. I'm trying to do this. Okay, like say now change it to 5. So sorry, T1. All right, and try it out. Now it returns an error. See that tuple object does not support item assignment. Okay, so that's a test for the mutability, right? Immutability, right? So I'm going to block this one because this is causing an error. Okay. All right. So let's continue real quick. Okay. All right. So like list, you can use indexing with tuples. You can slice a tuple. You can concatenate tuples, and you can do the repetition with tuples. So you should try to check all of these. Okay. So you may have read in the reading quiz on these operations. You should test this out. Okay. All right. So since tuples are immutable, since you cannot change it, you cannot use modifiers. Modifiers are methods that change the variable, change the objects we pass into that method. Okay, so we call them modifiers. Okay, so append is one of them. Okay, so there's a list method, list operation called append that you can append items at the end of the list. So you cannot use that with tuples because tuples are immutable. Okay, but you can use pure functions. Pure functions are methods or function that doesn't change the data we pass into those functions. Okay, so index method is one of list index method is one of that. Okay, so we can use with them, right, with tuples as well. All right, so if you want to return more than one variable from a function, you can create a tuple out of those variables that you want to return and then return that tuple. Okay, so let's check. Let me check on first tuple methods. Okay, I'm going to use dir tuple. Okay, all right. So these are all the methods available in tuples. All right, so we have count method. We should have, let's see. Yeah, we have index method. Okay. All right. So we just already saw list operations, right? Methods available. Okay. All right. Let's continue. All right. So what a tuple assignment is really powerful. It's actually like service that we use the tuple the most. Okay. It's tuple assignment, and then you will see some of the examples in the in code check examples too. Okay. All right. Well, you will use um, you will see those occasions. Okay. Um, so basically, tuple of variables. It's basically this. Okay, we have a tuple of variables on the left hand side of the assignment operator, and to be assigned from a tuple set of like value of tuples. Um, tuple of values, sorry, in the right of the equal sign. Okay. So, all right. So the numbers, the item numbers should match. Okay. Otherwise, you're gonna get an error. Okay. So if we have three items in the left-hand side, three variables in the left-hand side, we should have three values in the right-hand side. Okay. So, all right. So it's basically you are doing a multiple assignment in a single line. So that's really a cool way to do that, right? Let's say you have a 10 assignment statement. Isn't it cool that you can actually do it in a single line? So that's tuple assignment allows that. Okay. So for example, I have variable one, two, three, and I have and then variable a and b as well. So I'm going to first take a tuple of one, two, variable one, two, three, and do this and one. So these are the values on the right hand side, one, two, and O. And this is going to basically create assign each value to each of these variable respectively, right? So variable one get one, variable two get two, variable three get O. Okay. And we can use the tuple assignment to swapping as well. All right. So this is a really common and efficient way to do swaps. And then you will I saw one example that we have in the list, this module. Okay, so I have variable AB, and I'm basically I create a tuple of AB, and I'm assigning it to tuple of BA. So now A gonna get B's value, B gonna get A's value. So it's swapping. Okay. All right. So let's check on that. So I'm going to quickly run this one. Okay, right over here. Okay. So okay. And then I'm going to print this set of variables over here. Oops. All right. So this is the tuple assignment. So notice I am assigning new set of values to this new variable. Okay. So these are not defined previously. Okay. So I'm printing them and I'm expecting one, two, and O. And I'm printing just one over here as well. Okay. So the other one is, okay, let's try this first. Yeah, so the 1, 2, and O are the values, and variable 1 is 1. So let's now go back and do this. So now in this right here, I only have 2. So I'm going to uncomment this and run. Okay. So, okay. All right. So see that I only have 2. So this is going to return an error. Okay. So not enough values to unpack. Okay, so that's the error. So basically, I don't have enough values. So I'm gonna comment this. Okay. All right. Here, so I already have these two variables defined. So I'm simply going to swap these. Okay. So let's run it, and then swap value over here, and this is before, and this is before, and this is after. So I'm swapping over here. Okay. All right. So this is the value before 1 and O. Now O and 1. So it's swapped. Okay. All right. So this one, we're gonna do some practice. So this will be a discussion for you guys to do. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay. So this is our last slide. Okay. In here, basically, what you have to do is this is a simple set operation. We're going to learn about this, doing this whole thing, this problem, solving this problem in a single line. You can do it using Python sets, but we are not there yet. So you're going to do it the hard way using list. Okay. So you will see a discussion down in the module. Okay. Just share the ideas to solve it. That means understand, match, and plan. That's it. Okay. And then at the end, you will have to investigate how we can do this using list comprehension. It's a little bit tricky, guys, okay? Because, uh, um, right, so you will see that why it is tricky, okay? So once you solve the problem a regular iteration way, you will realize it's really tricky to do this using list comprehension. But there's a hack to do that. So figure it out and share it with others. Okay. All right. So that's our lesson. Let me stop here.